aren't you? Yeah.
Allie.
Allie.
Haley.
Haley.
Anna.
And Ann?
Anna.
Anna. Very good. Well, I'm so glad to be here. Well, I'm Miss Jackson, and I guess I'm your guest speaker today, so I'm going to...
Can I get you a water bottle?
No, I'm fine.
Okay.
I will do my best to not wear you out and bore you to death. How many of y'all really think you want to be teachers? Think that's a good idea? Good, very good. Do you have any idea what content you want to teach?
I want to teach special ed.
Excellent.
History or math.
Excellent, excellent.
Kindergarten.
Kindergarten.
English.
English. And y'all just along for the ride. You're not real sure yet? Yeah. Okay, that's okay. That's all right. Because there are lots of decisions that get made in your life, and some you're pretty sure about it at an early age, and some you're really not. And I'm going to basically kind of tell you the same thing that I know Ms. McGuire has heard me say before, but I really think that a lot of what I have to tell you is good advice because I've been there, done that. The main thing is, never in a million years would I have thought that I would be a teacher. Never. I was not your teacher material per se. I was not real excited about going to school every day. I went, but it was not really an exciting time for me. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I was born and raised there, and there were 723 that graduated in my high school graduation class. My brother is 2 years above me in school, and there were 961 in his class. So we had enormous classes. And I think, in retrospect, I look back, and I think that's probably a contributing factor to why I wasn't real crazy about school. When you have 35 people in your English class, or 45 people in your English class, the teacher's just trying to maintain sanity and really not go through the efforts of really doing as much as they possibly could to inspire you and make you excited about your education. But nevertheless, I graduated from high school at Thomas Jefferson High School in 1967, so that tells you how old I am. And I went off to college. I went off to college more than anything because I was not happy at home. It was not a good place to be. And so, as an escape, I took a positive route for a negative reason. I really was not going. And when I got there, I paid my own way through school. Because my parents were not interested. They didn't see the value of a girl going to college. That was, 45 years ago. But my brother, they certainly wanted him to go to school and get an education. But I was supposed to be a secretary or something like that. I made a G in typing in high school. Not an F, but a G. That tells you how poorly I typed. I wasn't even a good failure. I was a poor failure. That was just 6 weeks. And I hated shorthand. So I was not going to be a good secretary. I could probably get along with, and I was extremely shy. I was very introverted when I was young. So anyway, I went to college. I majored in home economics. I loved home economics in high school, and I loved it as a degree, and I never have been sorry that I got my degree in home economics. And as a backup, I thought, well, I'll get my teaching certification, but I'll never use it. I know I won't because I'm not lent that way. And in the back of my mind, when you're young, you have these plans of what you think are going to happen or your expectations. And I really expected, now I don't know where I got this, but I expected to marry an old person, an old man, and he was going to take care of me. I never dated an old man. I don't know how I got that, but that was really what I thought would happen. And if I ever did have to work, it certainly wouldn't be teaching. But if he died, then I would have the insurance policy of having a teaching certification. Now, where's this thinking go? I don't know. But anyway, that's kind of why I got my teaching certification. And it wasn't but one more semester, and so I did that. After I graduated from college, I was married. My husband got drafted, went sent to Vietnam. So I finished school while he was gone, and then when he came back home, we were looking for a place to live and something to do, gainfully employed. I didn't want to live in Dallas, nor did he, because it was too big. He's from Pittsburgh, Texas. We didn't want to live in a teeny-weeny town like Pittsburgh, he thought. So we figured Longview was a good size. So we looked in Longview with all the optimism of youth, and so I think I'll have a job interview for a professional job. Now that I'm a college graduate, I can actually see what it looks like to have a professional interview. So I make an appointment. All my classmates at East Texas State University, which is now Texas A&M at Commerce, said, "Oh, Pine Tree, it's utopia. Everything is perfect in Pine Tree." And I'd say, really? And they'd say, oh, all the children are from wealthy families. Everyone has a mother and a father that live together in harmony. Everyone goes to college. Everyone goes to church. And I thought, my goodness, I need to get a taste of this and see what it's all about. So I made an appointment to have an interview at Pine Tree ISD. Met with Mr. Mark Hitt, who was the superintendent of schools at that time. He asked me questions during my interview that would be illegal today. He asked me, did I plan to have children? That's illegal. That's a sexist question or whatever it is. It's an invasion of your privacy. I went, yeah, probably someday, but not anytime soon. He said, okay. And so tell me monthly, are you healthy on a monthly basis? Which alludes to, did I have bad menstrual cramps and was I going to be absent a lot because of things like that? And I was going, no, I'm healthy all the way around, which was true. So he hired me. But anyway, so he sends me to the high school. The high school principal talks to me. Everything's good. And so I leave, and I think, well, that was fun. And that was the end of that. Well, a couple or 3 weeks later, I get a call back from Mr. Bartle, the principal. And Mr. Bartle said, can you come back in and visit with me again? I did not have enough sense to know that was a second interview because I had never had a professional, interview before. And I said, sure, because we didn't have a job, we didn't have a place to live, we didn't have anything to do, so sure, So I said, when do you want me to come? And he said, well, how about whatever day, like Tuesday? I said, okay, that'd be great. So I show up on Tuesday, and we go down to the homemaking department for the first time, and we look at the department, we talk about it, and the demonstration table, and how, when I did my student teaching, they had one too. We never talk about a job. We never talk about if you want to come to work here. We just talk. We talk about cows. We talk about gardens. We don't talk about anything about Pine Tree ISD or me coming to be a part of their family. So he thanks me. I thank him, and everything's good. And so I leave, and, we go eat lunch and whatever. And the next morning, or maybe 2 mornings later, we're at my mother-in-law's house. My mother-in-law comes in at 6:30 a.m., grabs me by the toe, and shakes my foot, goes, wake up, you're a teacher! And I went, oh my gosh, no! Did I think I was really interviewing for a job, and now I'm hired. And I think, oh my Lord, I don't want to be a teacher. What am I going to do? So I sat on the end of the bed, and I was like, oh my goodness. My husband's going, what have you gotten us into? I said, I don't know. What am I going to do? I don't even have a car to get to work. Yada, 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 back and forth. So that's how my career started at Pine Tree. Fast forward 40 years later, here I am. I'm still at Pine Tree. I have loved my experience. I cannot tell you I have loved every day because that would be a fib. I have loved what I've done. It has been a wonderful profession. There are so many advantages to being a teacher. Are there disadvantages? Most definitely. And I'm certainly not going to tell you that it's for everyone. But it has been fabulous. When I first started here in 1972, it was a whole different ballgame. I think they had just turned to 3A classification as far as UIL goes. And all the kids, and again, I'm from Dallas, so it's a whole different, it's a culture shock for me. There was no mall in Longview. There was downtown was where you went shopping, and I don't even think there was a Brookshire's grocery store. I don't even know what kind of grocery store we had. But we had some sort, I know we had a Piggly Wiggly, which is long gone. But anyway, there was just a whole different way of living at that time. And when I started at Pine Tree, the very first day of school, they introduced every new student. Everybody in the whole school, high school, was on one side of the gymnasium. And they introduced all the new teachers, where they were from and what they would be teaching. They introduced all the new students by name and where they had come from and welcomed them to our school. I thought, goodness gracious, this is pretty personal. This is really neato. There were 5 of us that were new teachers. I taught homemaking for 22 years. And in that time, I saw a tremendous number of differences. The kids brought their Bibles to school. There was a Bible class at the time, but they, a lot of times when they would get through with their assignments, you're reading a novel, they would be reading their Bible. That didn't happen in Dallas, not where I was, from anyway. The kids hung all of their personal stuff on the outside of their locker, and no one bothered it. Girls would hang their purse out there and their lunch. That today, unfortunately, we could hang our lunch out there and go to the bathroom and come back and the lunch would be eaten, and the purse would be emptied possibly. There was a huge degree of honesty, and I think a huge degree of honesty came from the fact that everyone knew everyone. And that bothered me, being from a bigger city, because I thought they're all nosy, everybody was into everybody else's business. But that really was not necessarily the case. It was a community that knew one another and embraced one another, good, bad, and ugly. I can remember Alton Hawkins, who is a coach here today. His family, he was a little bitty boy when I got here, and his family, his house burned to the ground one night, like on a Wednesday night, and every one of those kids was in school on Thursday. Every one of them. And I know the community probably, surrounded them with love and support, but, their dad believed in education, and he said, you can't do anything at home, you might as well be at school, borrow some clothes from your cousins and get on to school. I think Coach Hawkins is one of the only Hawkins that did not get perfect attendance for his entire education, from first step kindergarten to graduation from high school. Like, I think there are 10 children in his family, and I think 9 out of 10 got perfect attendance records for the entire career of education. We had a smoke hole at one time where kids would go in between classes and smoke cigarettes, and it was legal. It's illegal now, of course, but that was a difference too. Every Friday we had Pirate Special in the cafeteria, and that Pirate Special was T-bone steaks, baked potatoes, and homemade chocolate pie. Things have changed. The Pirate Special now, I think, are those chicken round things, or beef fingers, whatever, But anyway, so things have changed as far as the cafeteria too. We did not have boys in the homemaking classes. We did not have any girls' athletics that I can remember at all. They may have had volleyball, but I went back and looked in the annuals from 1973 that I have, and I see no pictures of girls' organized athletics. As I said, they had a Bible class, they had a rodeo club, they had a chess club, they had, and let me see, I'm trying to remember from my stuff. The grading scale. The grading scale, when I first got here, was 93 to 100 was an A, 87 to 92 was a B, and from 86 to 70 was a C, and you failed at 70. So it was much tougher, a grading scale, than it is today. My first year here was the first and only year that we've ever gone to state in basketball and won the state championship for basketball. The second year that I was here, the drama team, the theater team, won state, and I think they did that again last year or year before last, but it's been several years since then. So they were really busy about that. Teachers were allowed to only wear pantsuits. I would be sent home in what I have on right now, and certainly your teacher would be, because at least I sort of have a coordinated jacket and top. But she has on a top and some slacks, and that was no. I was sent home one day because I was not dressed appropriately, and I thought I had on a pantsuit. It was a sweater knit slacks and a sweater knit top. And my husband is about as conservative as they come, and I asked him when I got dressed that morning, I said, do you think this is a pantsuit? And he said, but he didn't have a jacket, collar type of thing, and he said, yes. They sent me home because I was inappropriately dressed. So, again, things changed quite a bit there, too. We had, as I said, no boys in homemaking. We did have a vocational office ed class, which was getting you ready for secretarial jobs, because remember, that was the kind of idea about girls back then. There, to my knowledge, I can't remember any boys ever being in that class. There were typing classes, and now those were called keyboarding, and then they went to what's BCIS now, I think, today. We had wood shop, we had mechanical drawing. There were no computers. They hadn't invented computers. Well, they had invented them, but they were about the size of this room. So that was not something. They did have shorthand classes. There was no drill team. There was no flag team. And I remember the very first time that the drill team performed for a pep rally. I had a girl who's now passed away, but I had her in my homemaking class, and we were just all on a high. when that pep rally ended, because they did this wonderful little routine, and it was a high kick thing, and when they got through, everybody jumped to their feet. It was like the Olympics. We were like, yay! You know, we thought we'd arrived. We had the Rockettes at Pine Tree, and she came in, and we all applauded her and, you know, congratulated her like she'd won the Academy Award or something. We had a pep club, and they were all girls. We had one boy that tried out for it, but they wouldn't let him because of sex discrimination. Nowadays, that wouldn't happen. He could be there with all his glory. And we had a courtesy king and queen in the annual, which would be a nice thing to resurrect again. The most courteous people in your class. We had a Mr. and Miss Pine Tree. I'm not real sure if they even still have that or not. And then, of course, they had the most beautiful, and they had the cutest. I never quite understood the difference of that. And the most likely to succeed. I don't think they do that anymore because it puts so much psychological pressure on a kid to say, you are the most likely to succeed. And if you don't make it, you feel like a complete loser in your life. Or what is successful? You know, I mean, that's not a very easy thing to define. I would say I'm very successful. Do I live in a beautiful giant home? No. Do I drive a wonderful Maserati? No. You know, do I like what I do? Yes. Do I have a good husband? Yes. Do I have a good life? Yes. Am I happy? Yes. I'm successful. So most people see they don't do that anymore. And we had a lingo fest, and that's one of my favorite things to tell y'all about. Foreign language. And I'm not a foreign language person, but the foreign language teachers just really kicked butt on this one. And they decided that they were going to incorporate everything that the kids were learning about the cultures of the countries that they were learning the languages for, and the ethnicity and the whole business. And they transformed the cafeteria into different areas of the world. And so it was called Lingo, Lingo being your language, Lingo Fest. And they had France, and they had all these posters and all these things. I don't remember now what it was. And the kids had prepared French food for sale. And so, and then the Spanish classes did, you know, Spain and Mexico and whatever, and they had big piñatas and these giant big colorful flowers that you could buy and whatever, and they were all dressed with those little, you know, outfits and things on, and they had Mexican food that was for sale, and you went in, and if you wanted to buy tickets you could, and they had the music that was playing. It was just neato. It was so much fun, and it was so educational, you know, for the ones that were doing it as well as the ones that were just coming to visit and to be part of it. And I know if y'all have ever watched Good Morning America in the mornings on national news, and they'll have a segment where they'll have people that'll say, "Good morning, America." You know what I'm talking about? You don't, do you?
I do.
You do? Okay. They did that at the Lingo Fest. They had all the kids that were in the cafeteria all get together on these risers, and we were all standing there waiting on cue, CBS or whatever it was, ABC, whatever it was. You know, they cued us, and we went, "From Pine Tree High School, good morning, America." It was so exciting. We thought we were special. Okay, so today's Pine Tree. That was what that used to be back when I first got here. And here's the dinosaur coming forward in life and telling you, now here I am. And today we have dual credit classes. We didn't have them then. That's an awesome thing for y'all, because you can get your college credit at the same time that you're getting your high school credit. We have advanced placement classes. For those of you that are so smart, you know, you don't have to just get stagnant and get bored with all of us who are still struggling to understand certain concepts. You can have the advancement placement classes. We have vocational program offerings that are actually preparing you for a career when you leave high school, that you can go straight into a career and start making money. We have computers and classes, of course, that prepares for those related jobs. We have a huge variety of athletic programs for boys as well as girls, or young men as well as young women. And then on my own personal level, we have different levels of education available to address certain needs for students that we did not have then. We just had the traditional classroom that you're sitting in right now in the early 70s, 80s, and 90s. And in the middle of the 90s, they started saying there's a need for other types of education to offer our community. And I left homemaking in 1995. After 22 years there, I started the GED credit dropout recovery program. We had a tremendous number of kids, tremendous, it could be 5, but that's too many, of kids that were dropping out of school and not being prepared for employment. And so I started the GED program in 1995, and I worked in the mornings with GED and the afternoons in homemaking that first year. I started with 7 boys And then I grew to several hundred that graduated with their GED eventually. And then around 2000, 2001, the state made all these crazy changes about who could be in a high school GED program, and that was the death of our program, as well as most of them across the state of Texas. And I started the credit recovery program, which I really liked better, because you really need a high school diploma more than a GED. Now, you can be successful with a GED, but there is a huge stigma attached to it. There's a lot of discrimination. When you tell people that you have a GED, they go, oh, really? You know, and employers many times won't even look at you. I won't even go past your application, because they see you as taking the easy way out. So when the credit recovery was formulated, the kids were able to get those credits back, retrieve those credits that they had lost, they had slept through, they had been in drug rehab, they had skipped school, whatever, or moved from school to school to school to school, and lost their credits. They got back on track and they graduated with the Pine Tree High School. And then we evolved from that to now we have an Excel High School, and that's what I am affiliated with today. And the Excel High School is an alternative high school. It's a school of choice, and alternative does not mean naughty. It means it's a different way of getting your education. And we're computer-based right now with Plato software. The kids go to school for 4 hours a day. We have a morning group until noon, and then we have an afternoon group that goes from noon to 4. And they work at their own pace on their core curriculum and their electives, and they earn their high school diploma from Excel High School, which is still affiliated with Pine Tree ISD. And most of the kids, you know, again, the kids that we serve, most of them are, not all, but most are at risk of dropping out of school. And at risk can mean anything from being a teen parent, to having drug problems, to being a chronic truancy person, to a child whose family is broken and they are moving from one community to another, and they continue to lose more and more credits, and that happens more than you would have realized. Homelessness. We've had several students that have been honest to goodness homeless. And I don't mean you got mad at your mother and walked out in the front yard and you're homeless. I'm talking parents aren't even anywhere in the realm of their lives. And then there are kids that truly just need to get out of school. They've been in trouble, and many of them are really, really, really smart. And if any of you sitting in here are really, really, really smart, and you're a class that is way lower than your ability, you're going to get in trouble most of the time. Either for sleeping because you're bored, or for tormenting the people next to you because you're bored, you know, or noodling or writing letters, or doing something creative rather than actually paying attention to the teacher, because you already know what the teacher's telling you. So a lot of our kids are that way too, that they just need to move at their own pace, get through and get on to college so that they can be stimulated or challenged once again. As I said, we do, in Pine Tree, our demographics have changed tremendously in 40 years. The Hawkins family is the only black family that I can think of when I came at Pine Tree in 1972. I think the Lemons were here, maybe the Fishers. But for the most part, it was a very white community. And it was not utopia. I had very quickly, within 2 years, I found out that was not the case, that there were problems within families, that there were problems within children. There was sexual activity that was hidden under the rug, and people got pregnant and things like that. Today we have a teen parent, that walk around and still finish their education 9 months pregnant, and that was not the case in the 70s. So there are advantages to, being Opie Taylor and Mayberry in 1972, but there are just as many advantages to being whoever I am today in 2013. Another thing as far as today, we have a lot of drug issues that in our communities that teachers have got to be able to face and deal with, if nothing else, just listen to. But drug issues with children, but with their parents as well. There are many families that are touched by drugs that are not just you teenagers. It sometimes is a mother, the father, the older siblings, or whatnot. We have more non-English speaking students than we've had before. We have a tremendous amount of transients, families that move from one place to another. I had a boy when I did credit recovery, so that's been like 4 years ago. And he and I were working on a job resume as part of an English class that he was taking. And if you've ever done a resume, you tell your address and your name, and then you tell like your education. And since y'all are young, we would usually just list where they had gone to school, and that hopefully would be a topic that an interviewer would say, "Oh, you're from California. We're in California." You know, you'd have something to talk about, and you would relax, and they'd get to know each other, you a little bit better, and maybe remember you when it came time to hiring someone. And so this boy got to all of it, and he got to the education, and he said, "What should I put here?" And I said, "Well, just put where you've gone to school." And he said, "When?" And I said, "Well, where have you gone to school?" We started listing them from kindergarten up till the 10th grade where he was right then. He had been in 14 different schools in just about that many number of states, and he couldn't even remember the 3rd and 4th grade. He had no idea where he'd been in the 3rd and 4th grade. So with that much transience, you lose a lot of your education. So that's another thing to be aware of. Of course, there's more broken homes and stuff like that. And there are more children that are living with people other than their biological parents. There are people that are living with their grandparents. There are kids that are living with their step-parent, and their biological parents not even on the scene anymore. There are people that are living, as I said, in homeless shelters with neighbors, with people from their church, with teachers, with coaches. It really is different. Okay, so why should you become a teacher? Are you going to make a lot of money? No. You're not going to, I mean, you're going to make a pretty good salary for a woman in East Texas. I hate to say that, but that's true. It is a fairly stable career. You know, you're probably not going to get laid off very easily. I mean, not very often anyway, so you're pretty stable there. As far as salaries, I've been topped out in my salary for the last 20 years. I hit my peak of salary at 20 years, and it's been pretty much the same thing. Every once in a while they give you a little token bonus. So you're not going to make a tremendous amount of money over a lifetime, but it is good. Let's start with the disadvantages, because I'd rather get those over with and talk about the advantages. Disadvantages is money. Disadvantages is stress. There's a tremendous amount of stress dealing with, even if you have an ideal utopia classroom, everybody's excited. Oh, please call on me. Please let me answer this question. If you had that wonderful ideal thing, you still have the stress of the ones that you cannot reach. You have the stress of the families that do not care that their daughter is brilliant, whatever, and not motivating her or encouraging her or him to go forward with their education. You have a lot of frustration, that kind of stress too. You have a lot of workload. There's a lot to do, a lot more than just standing up here. See, I even worked on my presentation for y'all, and I'm not even your teacher. I want to make sure that I covered as much stuff as possible. Okay, disadvantages. This is not a advantage. You've got to like kids. You have to like kids. You have to love kids. If you don't love them, do not become a teacher. Because have y'all been in a class that you knew your teacher didn't like kids?
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's apparent. And I can remember when I was a sophomore in high school, that was a long time ago, and Miss McKissick was my Spanish teacher, and Miss McKissick was mad at Donnie Paternostro at the back of the room, and she said, he was so cute and so funny. I thought he was just precious, And so Donnie acted goofy and did something, and she whirled at him and she said, "In my first year of teaching, I would have thought that was hysterical. In my second year of teaching, I would have probably found it mildly amusing. This is my 3rd year, and you are not the least bit funny." I've been here 40 years and I still think y'all are funny. I really like y'all. I like your energy. I even like your mischievousness. Now, I will be the first one. I'm already way ahead of you. I'm already punishing you before you've ever even formulated what you're getting ready to do, because I'm the adult version of you. I am 3 steps ahead of you, and I am as mischievous as they come. And I find that to be an advantage rather than a disadvantage, because I love your energy. I love what you do. But I also, on that other side, it breaks my heart to see when things don't turn out as they should, because you deserve better. So that's an advantage, disadvantage. You gotta like kids. You get the joy of seeing someone learn something. You cannot put that in a paycheck. You cannot put in a paycheck the satisfaction of knowing that you touched a life and you've made a difference. And I have a young man that's one of my former students that I talked about last time that I adored. And he and I are not on the same ethnic group. He's a male, I'm a female, I'm old, he's young, he's black, I'm white, he's poor, I'm middle class or less than middle class, but I'm more wealthy than he was for sure. And yet we bonded. And he had all kinds of problems in his family. And he would listen to me. And one day I said, I don't understand why you listen to me. I'm white, I'm old, I'm female, well, what is the deal? And he said, because I know you love me, Miss Jackson, and you would never tell me to do something you didn't think was the right thing to do. You can't buy that, and today he is a very successful young man. I can't tell you what he does or you'd know who he was, but he is extremely successful. Not monetarily, not money-wise, but he has really made something of himself, and I'm so proud of him. You're a missionary in your own community. You know what missionary is. You go out and you save the world. Like, I'm a missionary. My Nana was a Baptist. You have the advantage of having some tools when you have your own family. You learn child management skills. You also, and to me this was really important in the teenage years particularly, you have the knowledge of what's normal and what's not normal in your kids too, because you see it every day. My daughter went through the phase in the 1980s, 90s, I guess. Y'all weren't even born yet, but where the girls would wrap their hair up and their bangs were like this tall and they were just ridiculous looking. Kind of like those kids that have all the piercings all over their faces. They're going to look back 10 years and I go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? I thought I looked so good, with my pants hanging down, with my crack hanging down. Y'all going to just shudder when you see some of the things you did. Well, when Amy's bangs were this tall, and my family would say, why don't you tell her to do something with her hair? And I'm going, it's a phase, she'll get past it. Everybody at school hair is this bad. It's not worth fighting over. And my son, oh my goodness, he loved going to the Goodwill store and buying clothes and looking like a refugee from an underdeveloped country. And my family they were humiliated. But Matthew was a good kid. He was a good kid. He was not involved in bad things. He looked like a refugee, but that's okay. And he doesn't look like a refugee today. It passes. So as a teacher, you get to be able to have some sort of a measurement tool. And you have time off with your kids. When you have a family, if you choose not to work a second job in the summer, you do have that extra time and those holidays off. My last thing that I want to say is that if you've listened to what I said, you have to learn to be flexible. You can't be rigid and go, this is the way it is and this is the way it's going to stay, because it's not. I started out as a homemaking teacher. I went to GED. I did credit recovery, and now I'm in an alternative school for alternative ed, school of choice. I've had to be flexible. I've had to learn to do things that I never thought I would learn to do, like operate a computer. I've learned to talk to people that I really thought, I would have liked to have avoided at one point in my life, on the street corner, and now we've embraced one another. You have to be willing to learn in any career that you choose, whether it's education or anything else. Be willing to continue to learn. And the last thing I'd have to tell you that I think is most important is learn to love the people that you work with, because they are your family. You're going to spend more time with them at Brookshire's or wherever you work than the people that you chose to spend time with. Make sure that you're in a place that you like what you do, you like the people that you work with, and my faith in God has kept me here for 40 years. Without God, and I'm not trying to preach on y'all, but without my faith, I couldn't have made it a lot of days, I've had some kids that have helped me to raise my hands in glory, and some that have thrown me to my knees. Well, please, Jesus, help me. Don't let me slap this child today. But, it is those things that has helped me to have a really good career and lots of good memories. 4 of my very best friends I met at Pine Tree, and I spent last week ago Wednesday with them in Tyler, spent the night with them. We've been friends for 40 years, and we continue to be friends and support them. Okay, y'all have any questions? I know I talked a long time. I'm sorry.
Tell us about that story you've told before about the girl who...
About Loretta? Mm-hmm. When the second year that I was here, I was substituting in another room. I had an extra period to do something, and I went over to help a teacher, and this little girl named Loretta was in my class, and so she coughed and coughed and coughed and coughed and coughed this particular day, and I said, oh my gosh, Loretta, you have a horrible cold. Yes, ma'am, I do. And so after class, I said, have you gone to the doctor? I mean, because it's one of those coughs that just sounds like her lungs are getting ready to hop out. And she said, no, we ain't been to no doctor. And very uneducated family. And I said, well, are you taking any type of medicine like cold sore? I don't got no medicine. And I said, well, are you at least getting a good night's rest every night? And she said, no, I don't sleep too good. And I said, how come? And she said, well, my sister rolls over on me in the night and wakes me up, keeps waking me up. And I said, so you sleep in the same bed with your little sister? And she said, no, we don't got no bed. And I said, what do you mean you don't got no bed? And she said, you don't got no bed. And I said, okay, did you say you slept with your sister? Yes. And she rolls over on you? Yes. And I said, so when you're in the bed with her, you know, and I'm middle-class America talking to this impoverished child, and I do not have enough sense. Even though I'm an adult, I don't have enough sense because I don't have the experiences to know that that could happen. Today I do. And I will say this too. Every day I'm still surprised. You know, I don't show it as much like, what? You know, but I'm like, oh yeah, really? Okay. Did you know that so-and-so just got arrested for, whatever. Anyway, so Loretta goes, and wait for 15 minutes. I go back and forth to Loretta. You sleep in the same bed with her? No, well, I don't sleep in the same bed with her. Where do you sleep? And I said, well, with my sister. Well, where do you sleep? And then she finally says, on the floor. Now again, middle-class America. I said, you have company? Have any of y'all ever had to sleep on the floor because you had company? You had to give your bed to the guests, and so you make a little out on the floor. Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking, you have company? And she said, no, we don't got no company. And I said, then why are you on the floor? We don't got no bed. And I said, where's your bed? And she said, we don't got one. And I do not understand. I do not understand what she's trying to tell me. And then I say, is your bed being refinished? You know, or do you have it out somewhere and somebody's stripping it down and repainting it and whatever? And she goes, no, we don't got no bed. So the bell rings finally, and I know she was like, oh, thank you. I get away from this crazy woman. And she leaves, and I go into the office, and I say to Miss Collins, I say, you won't believe the story that Loretta's just telling me. I know it's a bald-faced lie. It has to be. And she said, what do you mean? And she's over there typing on the typewriter. We didn't have computers. So she's typing typewriter. And I said, she said, what did she tell you? And I said, she said she don't got no bed. She said, she probably don't got no bed. I said, where's her bed? She said, she don't got one. So she said, I tell you what, I'm going out this afternoon to her house because she was in a work program that she had to go out and make home visits, and she said, you just go with me. I didn't want to go. And because, you know, I'm a real private person. I didn't want to get into anybody's business. And she said, well, probably won't be anybody home anyway. Just go with me. I said, okay. So we get in the car. We get out of the car at her house. We pull up in front of a house. Now, I lived on the south side of Longview when I moved here. That's a whole other story. I didn't know anything about Longview. So we rented an apartment that we could afford, and we were 2 streets away from Nelson Street. And I'm talking crime, just major crime. It was just unbelievable. But a pool, a furnished apartment, we can afford it. You know, I rent it. So, and we paid $135 a month for a furnished apartment, all utilities paid, and it had access to a pool. I thought I had arrived. So we get to Loretta's house, and it has got pieces of cardboard stuck in holes on the sides of the walls, you know, already from the outside you can see. And I get out, I'm covered in fleas instantly. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, if somebody's looking out the window or the holes in the walls, you know, I don't want to embarrass them and insult them by, you know, so I'm trying really quickly to get out of the car and get out of the pile of fleas. And Miss Collins is quite large, and she said, I'll go around to the back and knock on the door. You go to the front porch because there's a hole this big on the wooden front porch. And Miss Collins, if she'd gotten up there, the whole house would have caved in. So I went and stepped over around the hole and knocked on the door, and nobody came. And then finally Miss Collins comes and opens the door, lets me in. And there is this house, and it's wooden floors. I don't think they had been polished ever, ever, ever. There were some rags in different areas in the room. That's where Loretta and her sister were sleeping, and her other sister and her other brother and whatever. Miss Collins went to the refrigerator and opened it up, and there was half of an onion in the refrigerator. That was it. There were 9 children and a mother that lived in this house. One of them was a baby. There was a baby bed there. And it was a huge education for me to walk into that house and see half of an onion and all these dirty rags on the floor. It made me appreciate poverty more. It made me understand. It made me appreciate what I have, certainly, but it made me understand why sometimes people do the things that they do. Because Loretta, these teachers had teenage daughters. I didn't even have a kid yet. Well, I did. I had a 2-year-old daughter. That, you know, and they would give her their clothes that their daughter didn't want anymore, and Loretta would wear them once or twice, and then you'd never see them again. Well, when you're poor, how do you get to the washateria if you don't have a car? You know, we didn't have a bus system at the time. You don't have the money to pay for a cab. If you did have a ride to the washateria, you have to have money for soap, you have to have money for the washers and the dryers, and then you have to get back home. You know, so it was easier just to wear the clothes until they were disposable, and they would just toss them in the pile, and then they would find something else to wear. You know, and it made me appreciate why they didn't wash as often as they did. She was paying $220 a month for that house, in as poor repair as it was, and I was paying $135 a month for a furnished apartment with all utilities paid. You know, there's a huge discrepancy in how we take care of the impoverished people as well. Many of the kids that come to Pine Tree today are on free or reduced lunch. You don't know it, you shouldn't know it, it's none of your business, but it is the only meal that they get. They eat breakfast, they eat lunch, and that's all they get. In the summer, it's a huge problem because they have no food. Loretta's family was on free lunch, thank goodness, because all they had when they got home at night was a half of an onion for 9 of them, 10 of them to share. So it's, you know, it was not utopia in Pine Tree. It was a devastating experience for me to find out. Not everyone was perfect, but that's the real world. So anything else that I didn't tell?
Tell about your education. How, you got to the point where you got your degree. Did you do anything further past that?
I did. As I said, I graduated from high school. I skipped school all the time. That's not a good thing for me to tell you, but I did, because I did not like school at all. And I finally got caught in the end of my junior year. I knew I was going to get caught. I got expelled. It was a trauma. And I had to walk around to all my teachers with like the red badge of courage. No, not that one. The scarlet letter, you know, where the A. Have y'all read that book? It was about adultery. Anyway, I had to walk around with my own little A, and it was that I had been truant, that I had skipped school. And each of my teachers would read it and go, you know, like I had robbed Brookshires or something and murdered the clerk. Anyway, they had to sign it that they had read about my sins. Anyway, I got in tons and tons of trouble for that. I did finally graduate from high school, though. I was not behind it. But I hated school so much that I swear if I had failed, I would have quit. You know, and no one quit back then for the most part. I think that's an advantage to me because I understand those kids that do not like school, that are not popular, that hate coming every day. Been there, done that. You know, and I try to do my best to make it an enjoyable time. So anyway, I graduated. I went to college at East Texas State University. I graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree in vocational home economics. So I am a vocational or a CTE teacher certified. And then after I finished there, I went back and got my homebound certification. I was the homebound teacher for Pine Tree for 2 years. I forgot to mention that. And I've done some certification in special ed, not a whole lot, but a few courses in that. And, I never got my master's degree. I've never been interested in getting my master's degree. It would have been economically an advantage to me, but my kids were little and I wanted to be at home with them. And that's usually when teachers go to school, is in the summer and in the evenings, and my family was number one and still is. And my husband has 2 degrees. He has a degree in psychology and sociology, and he ended his career. He was one of the heads of a subsidiary company in Lone Star Steel for several years. And when Lone Star Steel had all kinds of problems and got bumped down and bumped down and bumped down, my husband lost his job, and he ended his career as a chicken farmer. So those of you who say, I know where I'm going, you don't have any idea where you're going to go and where you're going to end up. He raised chickens for Pilgrim's Industries for 10 years, his last part of his working career. And, you know, and I used to kid with him on my bad days. I'd come home and go, well, how was your day? And I said, well, let me just tell you this. You can wring the necks of the ones that gave you trouble today. Kill them. And I said, I can't even slap mine. So, so you know, we're paradox about education. You know, we have our education, but we had done very different things. And when I've gone back to my high school reunions, the people that knew me were like, "Oh my gosh, don't tell me you're a teacher. Oh no, we're doomed." And I'm going, "I know." And one of my high school reunions, I actually had been the teacher of the year that year. And I'm going, "Not only am I teacher, I'm the teacher of the year. Can you believe it?" They're going, "Oh no." So it didn't stop me.
Anybody else have a question?
No? Well, good luck to each and every one of you. Don't give up. Make good friends. When you start teaching, be willing to change with the times and learn. Because you may find out that you go a different direction that you never thought you would, as I'm in right now. And I wouldn't take for what I'm doing.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome anytime.
Appreciate it.
And I'm probably going to be tired this year, so this probably really is my last presentation. So my swan song is my farewell, like the Queen. You know why the Queen waves like this? So her bat won't wiggle. Like this, you see it wiggle, so you go like this. Okay, bye.
Thank you.
You're welcome.